Hello everybody, I am RedWolf Player and I'm here to talk to you about 2018's Detroit Become Human. Now, Detroit Become Human for the PlayStation 4 is a game where you get to experience life as though androids were in it. So now just imagine your life every day as it is now, shoot it in the future by X amount of years, and imagine you have your own robot. That's basically what the premise of this game is. You get to play from the view of the androids themselves, which is interesting. We'll get into more of that obviously later. And speaking of what we're going to get into later, we have three categories. Usually I try to go for a little bit more, but I can really only come up with three main categories for this game to give it a score on. So, we're going to score this game based off the story. We're going to score this game based off the visuals. And we're going to score this game based off the gameplay. And that's actually split between action commands and dialogue options. We'll get into that, obviously, a little bit later. That's what we're going to be using to score the game itself. I'm going to take some points, we're going to do a total, we're going to see where it ranks on my game list so far. Now, I do want to give out a quick spoiler warning. The nature of the game, pretty much any video I show is really going to be a spoiler. I'm going to try not to hit the end of the game too much, but, we're going to hit some spoiler territory, I'm sorry to say. And so, up here in the corner, if you just want to see my score and see my opinion on the game, just click the button. You can see where it's on my list, you can see what score I gave it, or how many points I should say, and with that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about it. The story in Detroit Become Human is an old story in a new world. In this world, we see that androids are fairly commonplace. The main purpose we see these androids used for is a caretaker role, acting as servants to humans. This is where we begin with both Kara and Marcus, two of the three main characters in the game. They're acting as caretakers for the homes that they live in. We also have Connor, a third main character in the game, and he plays more of a detective role. However, he still does have a master. He's still answering to somebody, and so, you still can kind of see that dynamic there. It's a little bit different, but it is still there. Detroit does lay it on thick with the imagery of both slavery and the Nazi movement. The androids have to wear armbands and patches to denote what they are. They're ordered around and made to do what their master wishes, and this is really what the game is driving at, is a story of how the world is always afraid of change and always afraid of the other. On one hand, this type of story is kind of cliche. We've seen it a million times. It's a very important message, but it is still a little bit played out. However, the setting of Detroit Become Human does help revamp these cliches and make them into a brand new story. And so because of all of that, we're going to go ahead and give the story 25 points. As for the visuals in this game, the game just looks amazing. There's no other way to say it. Playing this game on the PS4 Pro, there were moments where I thought the game wasn't even a game anymore. I thought I was watching an actual person talking a video. This is mainly and especially true in the home menu, watching the character in the home menu talking to you and interacting with you a little bit, it blew my mind. It was a perfect way to kind of start things off. But even walking around the city of Detroit in this game, just everywhere I look, I am constantly amazed by the level of detail this game has. It really pushes the console to its limits, and you're really able to see the hard work that was put into these visuals. We also get to see really cool paintings, so besides just, normal 3D modeling and how the 3D world looks, we see paintings through the form of Marcus and his owner Carl. We also get to see some really cool graffiti in parts of the game. All in all, I just can't stop speaking about how great the game actually looks, and because of that, we're going to go ahead and give it 75 points. Now, a common theme in games like Detroit Become Human is for action commands to be the main way that you're going to interact with the world. Action commands in this game in particular are used for pretty much everything. You're starting with doing chores or walking around the environment, but, the action commands grow to things like actual quick-paced combat. The action commands are really fluid in this game, and they respond well to what you're trying to do. For this genre of game, action commands are kind of the norm. They're in line with what's expected, and so, since it's done pretty well, we're going to go ahead and give action commands 20 points. Now, honestly, I struggled a little bit with whether or not I should put the dialogue options into story or gameplay. However, with how Detroit Become Human handles dialogue options, I do think gameplay is the perfect fit overall. Going through the game and selecting your dialogue options are really what this game relies on. The best part is that a lot of dialogue options end up being timed, so you have to make really quick decisions and decide what you really want to say and how you really feel about the scenario at hand. Along with all of this, you get to actually see how your choices affect the story. Instead of in other games, you're wondering how many different endings you can reach or how many branches the story has. You see it through the actual game itself. It'll show you, here's your path, and here's 10 other paths that you could have taken. This is the coolest part of the dialogue options to me, because I'm the kind of guy who typically wants to go through every path and see what happens. Not always, but sometimes if the game is compelling enough, I want to be able to have that information. And so the fact that Detroit gives it to you, along with how great the dialogue options really are, is why we're going to give it 50 points. Alright, now that we've talked about the game, we need to give it a total score. So we talked about story first, and we gave that 25 points. Then we talked about visuals, which we went ahead and gave 75. We talked about gameplay, and we split that into two categories. We have the action commands and the dialogue options. Action commands getting 20 points and dialogue options getting 50, and so altogether that's 70 points. These were the three categories I could really think of and really put some numbers to, and so that's kind of where we're at. This game only got 170 points for me. It's not to say it's a really bad game by any means. I feel like a really bad game would be even lower. But the game was good. I enjoyed it. The dialogue options especially are kind of the only reason I would really go back and play it again is just so I can see where those other paths lead. But I'm not in a hurry to do so. It's not next thing to do on my list is to find out what all the other dialogue options lead me to do. And so it was good. I liked it. I'm probably not going to revisit it again for a while, though. This puts it below God of War, and so currently, Detroit Become Human is last on the list, below God of War and below Super Mario Odyssey, but that's okay. I got plenty more games to look at. We'll see if Detroit stays on the bottom of the list, or if it, starts rising up into the middle or the upper of the pack real soon.